Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mixed Faith Marriage Mastermind. I am Chris Rich. I am a certified life coach. I'm an active, believing member of the Church of Jesus Christ. And I'm joined by my dear friend and coaching colleague, Suzette Halterman. Suzette is a non believing member of the church who sometimes attends with her family. And we have another great discussion for you today. We've got the holidays just around the corner. So today we want to talk about how to navigate the holidays in a mixed faith marriage. And tricky, the holidays are a time where it can bring so much joy and excitement and also a lot of complexity when you or your spouse see faith and family and traditions differently. So, from how we celebrate to what feels meaningful to managing expectations with extended family and kids, there is a lot to navigate. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, just like we always do, I want to start off and I'm going to have us share our own experiences. So, Suzette, what has been the hardest part of navigating the holidays in your mixed faith marriage?
Yeah, I think for me, it really just boils down to kind of the inner turmoil I feel around religious stuff. I think part of my deconstruction was taking a very deep dive into biblical scholarship and so whenever like whether it's Christmas and the nativity story or the Easter story, whatever it is, like I always just creates a lot of almost like an aversion just because I view things very differently now. And so like when I'm pulling out the nativity to put out and the artwork, like there's some stuff I just don't put out anymore that I used to because there's just like this inner aversion is really the best word to it. Like I have an aversion to kind of the more religious side of the holidays. And so dealing with that within myself, because that's my own stuff, not trying to let that spill over into my family, and trying to find that balance of like, I do want to educate my kids on maybe more on the scholarship around that. But I also don't want to like give them this negativity or these rituals and stories that are important. I've come a long way in understanding that, myth and story is a really important part of being human. And so it's okay, but it's just that conflict of like, oh, I this is hard for me. And I don't want it to spill out and impact the mood of everyone else just because I have a lot of thoughts about it now. So that's my struggle. But in general, I feel like with the holidays, like a lot of our biggest traditions in our Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving, it really doesn't revolve around the religious aspect. Our biggest traditions are like we ski on Christmas Eve and, just it's more about the fun and the time together. And that's just kind of how it's been in our family. So the mixed faith aspect of it hasn't been huge aside from kind of just this inner conflict that I have. And yeah, so that's my story.
Yeah, I think for our listeners, just so you know, we are figuring this out with you because we're in our own mixed faith marriages and families, and we are human and figuring it out as well. For me, I think the tricky thing, and I don't even know if it's a mixed faith thing. I think it's just my husband and I are two very different people, and I love the holidays. I'm like Elf. I'm like all the things Christmas. I get so excited about it. And I love the traditions. I love the parties, decorating the food, the music, the word parties, the cookie exchanges, all those things. I think a lot of it too is I am an extrovert. I get energy from stuff like that. And so my husband, on the other hand, not that he's a Scrooge or a Grinch by any means, but we are two opposite ends of the spectrum. For him, the holidays, it's a great time to have a day off work. He's not, and it's not a religious thing. It's just like he doesn't get excited about those things. We have very different personalities. So I think that is the biggest thing for us is just looking at those different personalities. I think too, in a mixed faith marriage, sometimes we think of it as a mixed faith issue when it may be deeper than that. I think it brings up some other things when we're just, looking at different relationships because we're two totally different people. So I think just for me, the hardest thing is looking at expectations and also making sure I want to get my needs met as well. Um, I'm not going to just not do my holiday stuff or my Christmas stuff because he doesn't want to, nor is he asking me to. But I think it's just that kind of my inner struggle. So, yeah, all the fun parts of being a human and then dealing with the other humans and then doing it during the holidays. Okay, so my next question, how do you approach conversations about holiday traditions when you and your spouse value different aspects of the season? So, for example, church services, family gatherings, gift giving expectations, all those different things. And how can couples set clear expectations and boundaries before the holidays even start?
Yes, I think this is so important because there's kind of 2 areas where expectations really run rampant, and we don't talk about them: holidays and vacations. We just got back from a vacation, and I realized, like, partway through, I was like, "We each have very different expectations that we did not communicate," and it was messy, right? Like, normal stuff. So that happens so often, especially with the holidays. You kinda just get in and things are happening, it's so busy, and then you realize partway through, like, maybe I have expectations that I have not made explicit yet, or I'm sensing that you have expectations that you're resentful about now because obviously I didn't know about them. So it gets messy really fast. So it's okay if, like me, you only realize partway through, like, oh, we did not communicate our expectations. That's very normal. So I think just trying to do your best to communicate, like when you know holidays are coming up, what are your expectations? Like, what are the fun parts for you, the enjoyable parts for you? What are your priorities? What do you want to make sure that we do? What are the hardest parts? Where do we need to compromise? And trying to figure out that out a little bit ahead of time, so you're not kind of in the midst of the everything and then trying to sort it out when all the feelings have already risen to the surface, the resentment builds and it's just so much more productive to do ahead of time. If you
I when we're thinking about expectations too, when where do we get our expectations from? I think is a great question. If you look around, obviously we have expectations from our families of origin, how our family did things. And then if you watch a Hallmark Christmas movie, that just bumped up everyone's expectations to about 300% higher than they should be, maybe. So I think it's important to, to recognize where we're getting our expectations from. And also with social media, all compare and despair. We're seeing everyone else's how they do their holidays. So checking in with what's really reasonable, I think, is really important. Um, and as you were talking about, just communication. So important that you are communicating as a couple. Also, my kids are older. I've got 16, 21, and 23. So we can have deep conversations about expectations. And so I think it's really important to communicate that and to find out, what parts of the holidays are important to you or not. It could be like on a scale from 1 to 10. How important is this to you? To me, it's an 8. To you, it's a 1. Okay, what do we do? What do we do here? Um, and I love, like looking specifically, going through looking at what are our traditions? Do you like doing this? Do you not like doing this? Decorations, gift giving, food, celebrations, different things. I was just putting, as we're recording this, it's in October, and I love Halloween. And I only have one kid at home, and he doesn't care about decorations, and my husband certainly doesn't care. But then I was like, I care. I want to get out a couple little decorations because this is important to me. So I think it's important. But I also love when having this conversation, what are the things that are both important to both of us or to all of us? And what do we want to keep doing? Are there any things that just no one really cares about? Maybe it's a tradition that's too expensive, or like, why are we even doing this? No one really wants to do this. So, are there things that you want to stop doing? And are there things that you want to start doing? Maybe you've never done something before, and this is a good opportunity to have a conversation and look at it. How do we want to make this real for us and our relationship and for our family? So I think that can be super helpful.
Yeah, and it reminds me, I think just sharing decision-making power is so important. So that asking, like, "What do you like? What do you wanna do?" And I realize not all spouses are as good about, like, having those conversations. You might ask them, like, "What's important to you about that?" And they might just be like, "I don't know." So you may not be able to kind of have this, like, pre-holiday, let's sit down and assess everything, like, that just might be too much for some people, but you can do kind of a day by day, like, "Hey, here's what I was thinking for today. Are you good with that?" Like, just that effort to share decision-making power, like, I know I will take all the decision-making power and run with it because I just have it. Like, I'm just, I'm kind of used to running the household and, I kind of just will do that. I'll plan stuff and go, and I never stop to ask other people, "Do they wanna do this? Are they okay with this?" So I have to rein that in myself, just really sharing that power, like, "You good with this? Do you have any other thoughts? Do you wanna do something different?" Just that kind of check-in, even if it's not, like, at the beginning of whatever holiday, just during, or even just right before the activity, like, just showing making that effort to share power. I can be a power monger, for sure.
Me too. And sometimes you're in the middle of it and go, oh, okay, it looks like something's going on here, like you were saying earlier. It was funny. I'm very traditional, thinking of like a Thanksgiving meal. My idea of the perfect Thanksgiving is Norman Rockwell's painting, where everyone's sitting around the beautifully decorated bird and all the sides, and everyone's dressed up, and that's how I think of once again expectations. Thanks, Norman Rockwell. I but then having when I would get frustrated because I would put in all of this effort to make the dinner and people didn't want to help or they didn't eat it or whatever. And then after having some conversations, this probably took me a few years. I'm My husband and I have been married 27 years now and I'm still figuring, but come to find out no one in my family likes turkey. So I was making this big giant bird and so frustrated they wouldn't eat it. And now it's like, so having those conversations, going through the menu. Hey, what are your favorite parts of Thanksgiving dinner? And for my youngest, he just wants rolls. I like the rolls too, but I probably want a little. You want rolls too? And my husband, he wants pie. My other son, like looking at the different things and asking you specifically, what's important to you? And then for me, I love stuffing and I do want some turkey. So I just get like a little turkey breast from Costco. But I think it's important to look in and have those conversations to see what other people want. And I don't have to say, like, okay, if no one wants to do this, I'm giving it up because it wouldn't be fun either. So,
What a great way to get to know the people in your family too, right? We think we know our spouse or our children, but like you said, you didn't even know they didn't care about turkey. And if we don't ask, it's such a good opportunity. I think the holidays are a really good opportunity to find out what people like and don't like.
yeah. And they probably told me, but in my like, I want to take care of this sort of way, I was like, no, we're having turkey. We do it differently. So I think just the whole point is looking at those different ways you're doing it. Is it working? Awesome. Keep doing it. If not, you have our permission to switch it up. You don't have to do it a certain way just because it's always been done that way. Okay. Next question. How do you handle the emotional triggers, nostalgia, grief, or loneliness that sometimes come up when holidays look different than they used to?
I do think holidays can, for a number of reasons, not just for mixed faith reasons, but yeah, they can definitely be filled with a lot of feelings, disappointment, nostalgia, loneliness, all of that. But I think the most important thing is to allow yourself to experience that. There's a saying, what you resist persists. So if you like resist feeling that, it's going to linger until you kind of acknowledge it. So you feel it, you name it. But then I think it's important to just recognize that our brain does have a bias towards negativity. I may have talked about this before, but there's like a neuroscientist who frames it like this. He says our brains are like Velcro for the negative and like Teflon for the positive, like that nonstick substance. So the positive just doesn't stick. Our brains are wired that way, but they're wired to see the negative. That's a survival mechanism because the more negative we can see, the more we can keep ourselves safe and prepare against it. So it's really our brain does have a negativity bias. So I'm not advocating for toxic positivity, like just ignore the bad and the hurt and the loneliness or whatever and just focus on the good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying feel the hurt, the loneliness, all the feelings, because you got to do that. They're there. Acknowledge them, but then realize like, okay, this isn't going to change. I can't change this. I just need to learning how to live with it as it is, in this less than ideal state. An important part of that is focusing on the good, because that really does help. It helps your endorphins. It helps your immune system. Gratitude is like a really powerful vitamin that just can boost everything. So it's more of like a way to cope through it. Like try to focus on the good, try to see the good, what is working, what is happy, pleasant, even if it's not maybe your dream. That's a way to help you kind of cope with the fact that this is not an ideal situation and it does bring a lot of sadness, whatever feeling. That's my thought.
I think too, we have this idea that just because it's the holidays that we should be happy because it's jolly and there's joy. And when we notice that we're not feeling that way, we judge ourselves or make ourselves wrong. And I think it is so important that we let ourselves, just like you were saying, let ourselves feel those emotions. Uh, Today, as I was preparing for this, I was talking to my husband. I'm like, "Hey, we're doing this podcast today. Do you have any thoughts about this?" And we were having a conversation, and I realized that I had some things to work out, and so I pulled out my journal and I wrote down just like bullet points, all the things that I love about the holidays, the parties, the socialness, the celebrating Christ, going to nativity. um, We have a ward that has like 150 nativity scenes from all over the world. I love that stuff. Um, Going through and, listing what are the things that I look forward to, the food, the presents, the gift giving, all the different things. And there's a lot. I have my Hallmark movie expectation list. And then on the other side of the page, I wrote a list of the things that were hard for me about the holidays. And I think I realized that it's so easy to just be like, "Oh, everything's good. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas." And, put on that we resist our emotions, and exactly what you were saying, what we resist persists. And so I did make a list, and I said on part of it, I wrote down the things that were hard that I am grieving. I love going to see the nativities, and I wish that my husband came with me. I wish that my children would come with. They have no interest. So I make sure to take care of my own needs. So I go with someone from my ward or maybe someone from my community of a different faith that just they enjoy that too. So I make sure that I get to do that, and it's hard. And so just writing those things down, that there's the joy and the jolliness and decking the halls, and there's grief and loneliness, and this is kind of a bummer. This is not what I expected. So I think it's so important to be open and honest about that. And it was actually, I didn't realize how much I needed this conversation today. That I've got a list of things that were, my I've got a daughter that's living abroad, and my kids are big. They're not, when your kids are little, you can do all these fun things and Santa and all that with them. And I think it's so important just to be able to validate my own feelings.
Part of the holiday should be making sure you have a good cry and a good rage session, because it just brings up a lot for a lot, like you said, for a lot of, and making space for that.
Well, and that is perfect for our next question. What is your best advice to make the holidays a little bit less stressful?
I laughed when I read that question because I was like, I'm always stressed out at the holidays. I don't think there is a way to make them less stressful. I'm always a stress case, but I do think so. What we have what's called a window of tolerance, where we kind of can maintain our best selves and act from really grounded places from our prefrontal cortex. And then there are things that push us out of that window of tolerance, things like stress, being tired, being hungry. They really decrease our window of tolerance so that it's really little and we bounce out of it easier. So I think whatever you can do to kind of keep your window of tolerance open and not shrinking so that it's just this tiny little window and then you kind of become kind of crazy person, which we all do, right? It's just part of our human natures. Really, really do trying to take out the stuff that's unnecessary. Like which it's hard. It's hard, and kids have expectations, and you want to do all the things, you want to make it magical, and family, extended family and all that. It can be hard, but doing your best to kind of decrease where you can. Um, Sleep, self-care, like having a good cry, my expectations, all of those things just help keep your window of tolerance a little wider so that you can stay in it, and kind of not get into your, as you call it, Chris, your monkey brain, kind of your fight, flight, freeze, your all those kind of less than ideal responses.
Totally. Yeah, it's that we go into survival mode and we don't have access to our thinking brain. Yeah. Um, I think we have, when we're looking at our to-do lists for the holidays, I think that, and my answer is very similar to yours. Don't put yourself on the bottom of your to-do list. Don't. We need to take care of ourselves 365 days a year, and we probably need it even a little bit more during the holidays. So, yeah, making sure that we are, if we want to make the holidays magical for other people and to get along with our partners and all the different things that are going on, we need to make sure that we have something in our container so we can fill other people up. So, you talked about sleep, also movement, making sure that you're moving your body. I think that is one of the best things that we can do. Nervous systems are like pressure cookers where that pressure builds and builds. And if we can have something, just a quick thing to release that pressure, that can be a beautiful thing. So I think movement is a fantastic way to do that. And it could just be, if you notice you're getting stressed, and if you have time to go on a run or go to the gym or whatever that is, awesome. Also, if it's 5 jumping jacks, just to let a little of that steam out can make a huge difference. Um, Also, we go to all the parties. There's all the yummy food and the potlucks and the cookie exchanges and all those things that are just so special about the holidays. I think it's important that we make sure that we're getting the nutrition that we need. I'm not saying don't do that. I just, if I know I'm going to a word party or something, I'll make sure that I'm getting the things that I know my body really needs, my protein, my vegetables, all those different things, to focus on that earlier on the day, and then I go enjoy and have fun with the food later. Connection. We are connecting during the holidays, and part of the beauty of it, and with our families, our spouses, with our extended families. So I think sometimes we're like, I don't know that I can handle more connection during the holidays, but making sure that we are connecting in ways that feel safe and peaceful. So make sure that you are, if you have spent too much time connecting with your people, make sure that you have that time to go on a walk with your bestie, or to talk to a coach, talk to a therapist, talk to a counselor. Connect in ways that are meaningful and safe and calming for you when you're getting all the connection. So,
A little side note on that. I always think in December, I'm like, well, things will probably kind of die down and I won't have a lot of like couples because people are too busy with the holidays. And every December is when I get a lot of new clients because the holidays bring out all the tensions, right? If you're having difficulties over like kind of division of labor and one person carrying more of the load, or extended family stuff, marriage issues, like you said, it's a pressure cooker. All of that stuff is really gonna just come to the surface during December, because that's kind of the most extended holiday that we have. The other things are kind of just like one day, but December, it's like the whole month. So you're not alone if your marriage starts to feel really challenging in December. Like, just all that stuff just gets pressurized right to the surface. The differences, the faith differences, different styles, different approaches, like all of that is just going to become so apparent, and decreased windows of tolerances and increased stress and expectations. It's just a recipe for a mess. So yes, get a coach in December, or therapist or something.
so important. Yeah, it's not, your nervous system does not take a vacation. In fact, it makes it even more so. Um, what if you could give one piece of advice to couples spending their first holiday season in a mixed faith marriage? Or just for a piece of advice to couples, what would it be?
Yeah, I'm multiple. One is just time and experimentation, right? Even if it's not a mixed faith issue, when you get married, you have to kind of combine rituals and find something that's new for your family. So you're just doing that same thing in a mixed faith marriage. Like we got to find traditions that work for both of us and maybe get rid of some and create new ones. And that just takes time and experimentation. So I think that's one. I think focusing on the rituals and the traditions that you both enjoy and kind of building your holidays around those. And the other is, I talk about this with my kids a lot, like having an appropriate container around your own mood and your own stuff so it doesn't spill out on other people. Like I mentioned at the beginning, like when I experienced this aversion to the religious side of holidays, if I'm not careful in containing that, kind of zipping it up, and that doesn't mean suppressing it, but just like, like I can deal with it in appropriate ways if I need to get my own coach or if I need to journal, if I need to talk to people who understand, that's great. But not letting that spill out onto other people where I'm like, where my own baggage, my own stuff is kind of affecting other people. So just, zipping up your container, finding appropriate outlets so that your own holiday stuff doesn't like go where it's not supposed to, right? It's yours to manage. So I think those are my biggest ones. What about you?
Um, yeah, I think it can be so easy, especially in a mixed faith marriage, to look at all the things that are different. Like I want to celebrate Christ, and my husband has no interest in any of that. And it's easy to really focus on the areas that we see differences. And those are important. I think it's really important, like I said earlier, to have an understanding of those things and to talk about it. And to also make sure what are the things that and what are the traditions that bring us together. We have when I talk to my family about the things that they like about Christmas, at least with my kids, we have a tradition where every year since they were babies, we would give them an ornament that represented that year. And my Christmas tree is not the beautiful one that's all put together with bows that matches. Mine bonkers. There's so many just crazy, goofy ornaments that represent, it's like a scrapbook of the different parts of their lives. I think last year, I have a son that's a senior in college and he's studying photography and film and he likes horror movies. So I found a Christmas ornament, the twins from The Shining. I have that on my Christmas tree. They're so funny and, like unique to them, but finding those things that bring us together. I think the point of it and check in, what is your why with the holidays? Well, for me, I want to hang out with my people. I want to laugh. I want to have a good time together. I want to be able to connect with my people. And that looks different. It used to be that we would act out the Christmas play and have the bathrobes and all that. And that they have no interest in that. And as much as I would still love to do that, that doesn't happen. So to find the things that we do like, to focus on those things that we have in common. So for us, it's ornaments. Um, but I think that yeah, looking at what are the things. Another thing that we did one year that my daughter suggested, she said, why don't we write 12 notes or 12 things that we like about each other, like a 12 days of Christmas type thing, and put it in each other's stockings. And I love this because it was a way to point out the good or people would write funny memories or stories and they would stick it in everyone's stockings. Then on Christmas Eve, we would read all that. But then it got to even that tradition at some point. People are like, do we have to do this? And as much as I'm like, yes. But then, I think the big thing is being able to pivot. You find something that works well. And while it's working, do it. And then if you need to pivot, and then if you need to feel some sadness and grief around it, I think those are, yeah, but to look at those different look at what's working and where you do have things in common. Mhm. Anything else that you would add to this discussion on navigating the holidays?
The only thing is I did look, I got on a calendar and I was like, does Christmas fall on a Sunday this year? Because that can be challenging for couples, like combining the church stuff with the Christmas tradition can be tricky. And it doesn't. It's on a Thursday this year, just so everybody knows. You can breathe a little sigh of relief. But yeah, I think there's just so many elements of it, whether you're mixed faith or not. Like holidays just can bring out a lot. And so it's using all these skills to kind of get through all of it. Um, you can do it.
That's fascinating because I wasn't even thinking about the whole Sunday thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Tell me why. Tell me what is hard about that.
Well, I mean, for me, because I don't enjoy the religious portion of Christmas personally, I can see that it has value in the story and that it has meaning for other people and it's part of the rituals and things. It's just harder to kind of separate those out. And there's those expectations, right? Like, but we have to go. Especially we have 9 o'clock church. So it's like, then it's like, well, we can't. Do we do the gift giving after church? Or, where it's like church becomes the focus then instead of like, it's Christmas morning. It's like you got to fit church in there somehow if you're, believing if your family does that. So I think it just complicates things more. That's just my take. It's just kind of one less thing to navigate the mixed faith aspect of.
And I think it's important to look at and to have those. That's what I love about these things because we can just talk about it and hopefully bring things to light and help each other understand what we all know what's kind of tricky, but we looking at it from different vantage points I think can be super helpful. Okay. Well, we are so happy that you joined us for this mixed faith marriage mastermind. And we're wishing you the best during the holidays, whatever that looks like for you. And remember, take care of you. And if you need a coach, we got two great ones here, and we are happy to support you with whatever you need during the holidays. And we'll see you next month. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.